Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our channel. Hi, Dad, if you're watching. We are here today from Expat Launcher. Giannis will be joining us hopefully in a few minutes, so bear with me as I try to manage everything. Thank you guys for already joining in. If you have questions, please go ahead and leave them in the chat box and we'll answer them for you now. So let's get started. I guess first and foremost, please subscribe to our channel. That really helps us out. Like videos, that would really help us out, guys. So thank you so much for joining. Let's get started. So big news, as most of you probably know, we are super excited. Finally, after how long? A year, maybe. The US citizens are allowed in unrestricted travel to Germany. So we are so excited. What I can say is, so around June 13th, US was removed from the risk list, which is really good. And then here we're assuming maybe July 1st, August 1st, they'll open up. But here we are, June 20th, and they've opened borders for US citizens. So if you are fully vaccinated and you have been vaccinated at least 14 days before arrival, that means, and then you have the approved vaccination. So we're going to link below to make sure that you can look at the vaccine that you've received and if it's approved to EU standards, which most of them that have been administered in the US are approved in the EU. What that means if you are fully vaccinated and you can prove that upon entry is that you do not need to quarantine and you do not need to do the digital registry. Nor do you need a COVID test to come in. Now, I personally suggest take a test before you come just to have it with you. That's personal opinion. It's not required if you are fully vaccinated. I just like to over-prepare. The reason why I say that, thank you guys for just joining. If you have questions, please leave them in the comment or the chat box and we'll answer them now. Giannis will be here shortly. The reason why I say if you've been fully vaccinated, then still get a test just to be safe is because of the airline requirements. So make sure if you are coming from the States, flying to Germany, that you also check with your airline to make sure what their requirements are for you. And also a few days before you leave, just check the government websites to make sure nothing major has changed, okay? We will link all of those in the chat box below, whatever it's called. We'll link them there. So let's see. If you are someone from the US that has not been fully vaccinated, you can still enter Germany unrestricted. Hi, Keith. You can come into Germany unrestricted. However, you will need to provide a negative test, still go through quarantine and do the digital registry. So it's okay if you haven't been vaccinated, you're still allowed entry. There's just some extra steps you have to do. Okay, let me answer this question. Hello, are certain months better for finding apartments, language, academies, okay, especially in Munich. So certain months better than others. What I would say to that is during the summer months and winter breaks, it's a little bit slower to find housing and jobs. Germany is a year-round hiring season for teachers, if that's the type of job you're looking for. But because summer, everything pretty much shuts down during the summer, so things are a lot slower. And around holidays, winter holidays, it's the same thing. So there's no perfect month to start looking for that because it is a year-round hiring season. But I would say just keep in mind if you are coming in the next few months that it just may be a little bit slower to find those jobs and housing. But what that means is not impossible. It just means you need to put in a little extra effort to do so. Okay, good question. Okay, so please, guys, if you're just joining, leave your questions in the comments. April's perfect. If you're coming in April, you're after the winter break, you're right going into, spring, summer's coming up. So it's a good time to at least look for jobs. Housing is just difficult anyway. It's just overall Germany is just tough with housing. There's a lot of people wanting to rent, but again, it's not impossible. You can certainly find temporary housing to get started, meaning short-term leases to get started, and then get here, get settled for a few months, and then look while you're here. Okay. So back to the news with entry, because I'm excited. I could talk about this all day. Finally. What does that mean? So had this question come to me yesterday. Okay, borders are open. What does that mean? That basically means, well, no, it's not basically. It means if you are a U.S. citizen living in the U.S. And you want to come to Germany, you can do it. You're free to enter to, come as a tourist and stay. Now, what that means for U.S. citizens, you're a tourist, right? So you get a stamp in your passport. You have 90 days that you can stay in Germany. So if you want to be a tourist, great. You stay for however long and you go home. If you want to stay and live here longer than those 90 days, you have to start the process in that period. So you need to register the address. You need to set up health insurance. You need to apply for the permit that you want. So all of that stuff still needs to be done in that 90-day period. We can't let that go past the 90 days. If that happens, you need to leave and then wait 90 days and then come back in. Okay. Tip. What was my tip? Okay. So yes, you can enter now, which is awesome, but keep in mind that the local authorities here are still very slow. Unfortunately, they're extremely backlogged. They are not taking walk-ins still, so everything's done by appointment. If I was to make someone an appointment today in, we'll say, I don't know, Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, the bigger cities, it could take up to 2 months. They could respond to me quickly with an appointment, but the appointment won't be set much before end of August, September. So I think that's a big thing to factor in if you are coming here. And I'll answer this next question because I know it's going to come. It's just, you have to account for that delay of the foreigner's office if you can come in. With that said, if you are here for 90 days and you get an appointment on the 120th day, right? That's fine. You can stay until your appointment. You have a valid right to stay in Germany until your appointment date. So don't worry about if you can't get an appointment within the 90 days, you have a right to stay. Downside to that is you don't have a right to re-enter Germany, nor do you have the right to work. So you have to wait a little bit for it. If you guys have questions, anyone that's just joined, please leave your questions in the chat box and we'll answer them live. Otherwise, I do have questions that have come over to us in the past month since our last live Q&A, and we'll go through them with you guys today. So I want to do it a little bit differently this time. I want to kind of take through the steps of, pre-move, arrival, how the questions have come in. So let's talk about pre-move. Hi. So let's talk about pre-move. And the question is, how much should I bring with me? I am assuming this question is in regards to money. Hi, Nicole. I'll answer this one question after this one, okay? How much? I'm assuming this is a question of how much money should I bring with me? Now, if we've spoken to you before and we've done an intro call with you, or you're already a client of ours, we're always going to say, let's talk about freelancers today, right? If you're a freelancer, how much money should you bring? One thing you have to factor in is startup cost. And startup costs would be things like rental deposit, first month's rent. Sometimes they ask for first, second, third month's rent. The minimal fees you have to pay for the visa, the application, things like that. So with that said, If you can present to the authorities around 5,000 euros or more, that's a really good number to show them. And 5,000 euros, so equivalent. If you have US dollars, then we're just going to convert it for you and show them a total that's equal to euros. If you have around 3,000 to 5,000 euros equivalent, that's still a safe area number to be. Anything under that, and certainly anything under 1,000, then we would have to have a conversation with you to kind of see what we can do to present a little bit more of a savings or a family support. Okay. So Nicole, let me get to your first, or maybe your second question first. Would it be best to transfer to an open bank in Germany from the US? You don't need a German bank account to start. It's actually easier to show your US bank account to start, because when you have your first time application, you need to show back 3 months. So regardless if you open a German bank account July 1st, you're still going to have to go back 3 months and show them, because they want to see kind of an average of what you have had in your bank account for those 3 months. However, it is good to open a bank account when you are here and you're registered and can get started, because ATM fees, international transfer fees, all of those things add up, but not for the visa. You don't need it for the permit. Okay, good question. Okay, let me answer your other question, Nicole. I am slated to come in August. This August. Awesome. You have a flat. I am banking, nothing. Yep, fingers crossed, nothing shifts with COVID. Should I start the whole process when I arrive? What do you mean by process? Do you mean visa process or just in general? Maybe you can type that in the chat box for me. Typically, a lot of the stuff that you're going to need to do will be done in Germany. If you are planning to come in the next 30, 60 days, then what you'll want to do is start looking for jobs if you're freelancing. So we'll talk about teaching. Okay, so teaching, housing, all of those things, if you don't have that lined up 30 to 60 days before you come, that's a really good time to start figuring out those things. In regards to health insurance, visa, bank accounts, that's all going to be done when you're in Germany. The only exception is if you want travel insurance, then we can help you set up that before you come. But permit application, bank account, insurance, all of those things will be done once you're here. So the big thing now is, especially if you have a place lined up, you know what your permit type's going to be, what jobs you want to do, is enjoy time with family, friends, save and downsize. I say it all the time, but it's so true. When you are here, I highly suggest, and I know it's on our question somewhere, I highly, highly suggest, please take a little bit of time. Please take a little bit of time for yourself to...
Hi, guys.
He's Sorry, here, I promise he was going to be here. Take a little bit of time for yourself to relax, because once you get going, it's going to be very busy as you just take a time to relax. But all of those things you're going to do when you're in Germany. Okay, let me see if I miss anything from Nicole. Go to do an ELS. I was going to do ESL online, so I got my permit when I arrive. So you can teach online now. That's totally fine. I think the biggest thing, the gray area, is when you're here and you've registered your address. That's kind of where it falls, right? That gray area of, I'm a tourist, I'm here, I'm allowed to work in the US remotely, so I can do it from anywhere. That's okay. And I think we talked about this on the client call with some of you guys last night, that once you register your address, you're telling the German authorities you want to live here, you want to get a permit, you want to stay longer than 90 days. So that's where the gray area of online teaching. You can chime in if you... Am I good?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I'm sure you can hold it up.
He said he zoomed to get here, I'm sure. Okay, let's see. Next question. I'm not sure if it was answered, but will Americans need a specific reason to enter Germany, or will we be able to simply enter? So, okay, for US citizens, you are allowed to enter as a tourist, no questions asked. They stamp your passport, good to go. You do not, they're probably going to ask, right, why you're here. But you're allowed to come as a tourist. You're allowed to come and apply for a resident permit. You don't need a Schengen visa. So for 7 now 8 countries, they're friendly nations as they're called.
Yeah.
You can come in obviously with Corona. So we'll just take US as an example. US citizens living in the US can come in unrestricted, stamp in your passport, good to go. Super, super easy.
They call it a visa, but it's really a visa exemption.
Yeah.
So a Schengen visa is only needed if you're a citizen of a nation that's not part of the so-called 9 friends. I think no, right? Eight.
Yeah.
8 friends. I'm with the Brexit. I am not sure if my number is right, but the friendly nations. So it's Canada, US, New Zealand, Japan, Australia, South Korea, Israel,
UK. Did you say that?
UK. Not sure if I'm missing one.
Who's counting? Did we get them all?
So people talk about getting a visa, but really you have a visa exemption. So you can just enter with a stamp in your passport, like Tammy said.
Yeah. And you have the free right to stay for 90 days. We talked about it in the beginning that if you want to stay longer than those 90 days, then you have to take steps before that 90th day expires to do so. Okay. Yeah. Keith, question. Can you talk briefly about taxes for freelancers when trying to budget? Is there a best guess for percentage? You want to take that one?
Well, first of all, disclaimer, we're not tax advisors, and that's just everything we give you is just completely spitballing. So it really comes down. Like I think a good percentage. What do you generally tell people?
It depends. The first year, it depends on the job you're doing, right? For freelance teachers and different jobs that kind of are more sporadic, then I'd say you start out with 25%, 30% to be safe.
That makes sense.
I know that sounds like a lot, but it's almost like a little nest egg you put away for taxes. Most likely in Germany, you have a limit up to, and I would have to double check for 2021, it's like 9,400 euros. Don't quote me on that exact number, but it's around that where it's tax-free. And what that means is after that amount is what you're taxed on. So it's safe to say that in your first year getting started, you're going to be maybe over that, but not by so much. Lucky you if you are. So if you can put away 25, 30% in the first year to get an idea, that's going to cover you come tax season. And if you give less to the government, even better, you have a little savings, right?
And also, this is just income tax. So there are different taxes. There's like the most important ones are income tax, then VAT, or a different name for the sales tax. That's the second one. And the third one is trade tax, Gewerbesteuer. As a freelance teacher, you don't have to worry about Gewerbesteuer, trade tax. So that's good. You only have to worry then about income tax and sales tax once you're over a specific amount. So once, let's say in 2021, you make more than 17,500 euros, that's the benchmark, the next year you will have to charge VAT, and that's an extra 19% out of your pocket.
The good thing with that 19% is it comes from your clients, right? So you're charging that.
Yeah.
You should be charging it to your clients where you're not paying it out of pocket. So it's almost getting the sales tax from your client, and then you give that to the government. What did I just say? To the government. So it's a pain to manage. It's a pain to do, but it's doable. Yeah. Long-winded way, Keith, to say Save about 25-30%. Okay, so we don't have any new questions in here. Please, for anyone that's joined, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box. Otherwise, you can always email us at info@expatlauncher and we'll answer your questions, free consultation, all of that good stuff. Okay, so question, what do we do? How much do we bring? Travel insurance. Should I set up, this is still pre-move, guys. So should I set up travel insurance?
If you want to be safe, yes. It's not required. It's totally voluntary, but yeah, if you don't have travel insurance and something happens to you, things can get expensive. Not quite as expensive as in the US, but they still can get expensive in a hospital. Or I don't know, if you need an MRI or something like that.
Yeah. And it's fairly affordable. We won't go into pricing, but it's very affordable to have for 2-3 months while you're getting settled.
It's probably about 50 euros a month is already a good price. So
it's worth it to, especially nowadays with everything happening in the world. It's just good to have some kind of coverage.
That's true.
Okay. Let's see. So, okay, let's go to questions about arrival. So now what? So you've gone through customs, you're here. What do you do? What do I do when I arrive? Okay. So first things first, I think I mentioned it in the beginning. Let me move my screen to get all my stuff up here. First things first is relax. Go and sightsee, enjoy it a little bit of time because it is going to get busy, right? Next thing is to make sure you are following any corona-related regulations in Germany now. So most of you that are vaccinated coming in, you don't need to do any quarantine or any of that. But if you are one of those people, just make sure you are following those guidelines. Germany is still a little bit behind on opening things and stuff. So that's important. Another thing we said is, so if you're here, you have a place that can be registered. That's going to be one of the first things you're going to do is register your apartment, house, flat, whatever you want to call it. Because once you're registered, then all of those things you can do falls into place. So setting up health insurance, getting an appointment for the permit, things like that. Let's see, before I get to Nicole's question, if you're coming to Germany and you don't have a place to live, then we always suggest getting a temporary place for 2 weeks to 30 days at most to have a roof over your head, to be safe. Okay. And then while you're here in those first few weeks or 30 days, then you're hit the ground running, looking for an apartment that you can register. And you can register an apartment 2 months, 3 months is the safest to have minimum. Okay. That's really it when you get here. That's pretty simple, other than lining up work if you haven't done that before you've come. And don't feel that if you are planning to come in the next month or two and you don't have freelancing jobs lined up, don't stress about that, because once you're here,
it's going to be easier.
It's going to be much easier to do it. It's not impossible to find it before you come. It's just going to be easier when you're here. Okay. Nicole, did I answer it? If I'm renting but have a place already, should I submit a lease when I arrive or ahead of time? You can't do it ahead of time for first-time applicants because they need to see you in person and verify that it's actually you. So we can, for our clients, we make all the appointments. We fill out all the application forms that are in German. We help you prepare to go to the appointment. But for address registration, unfortunately, even during Corona times, you have to go in person for first time. So that will be done when you're here. Now, for those of you that have an apartment already ready, you can have your lease ready. You can get the Wohnungsgeber ready. That's a landlord confirmation form. Have that ready. So when you're here, then we can get going.
Just the actual registration can't be done in advance.
Yeah. And we can always make appointments for you in advance so that when you're here, we can get you in. Quickly. Okay. Another question in regards to the now what? So we already talked about that, about getting everything set up before the 90 days. Okay, let's see here. Go back and forth on my screens. So permit processing, waiting times. This is a big one that we get asked a lot. What do I do while I wait for my permit to be approved?
Not legally work. It's unfortunate, but you can't legally work before your permit has been approved.
Correct.
This is our official answer. We understand that sometimes people are itching and they do online work upfront, especially if the processing takes a long time. I think if it's 2 weeks or a month, everyone can wait. But in small towns, when it's 3, 4, 5, 6 months, then I understand that you need some money and you have to work online maybe. But just know that it's illegal. Don't get caught. Don't tell us about it.
Please don't. Yeah, I mean, you have to wait. And it also depends on your type of permit. So we help people with all different types of permits. But if you are freelancing, you are getting an employment permit, you have to wait until they approve you to do that job. What does that mean for waiting? That means you can take German lessons that you can do without having a permit. Mm-hmm. You can explore your city. All the things you don't want to hear, right? You just can't work. For first-time applicants, you have to stay in Germany after those 90 days, right? So if you're here 90 days and you have an appointment, you're processing, and now it's we'll use 120th day. I always say that. You have to stay in Germany while they process your permit. I mean, you can leave, you just can't re-enter. I guess that's the better way to say it. So unfortunately for first-time applicants, you have to stay while they're processing everything.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's an urgent matter, death in the family, something happens, that's even still really difficult to get approval, but it's possible talking to the local authorities and letting them know about this urgency.
Yeah.
And just at the mercy of the agent if they'll give you a travel document to come back in. Okay.
There's a question in the chat. Are you allowed to use long-term Airbnbs to register as an address until you find something else? Okay, if you're not allowed to answer that. Well, we are allowed to answer that. And yes, you can use them. It totally depends on the landlord. It doesn't matter. Airbnb is just a middle person, so to speak, that gives you a rental contract with makes it a bit easier if the person agrees. So with Airbnb, so legally it's no problem at all. You just should have the apartment for 3 months minimum. I would do that, and then you have to get the approval of the person that rents it to you, the landlord. But often on Airbnb, people will not be willing to give it to you because maybe they're not allowed to rent out an Airbnb by their own landlord. They're just sub-renting. That happens quite a lot.
Yeah.
But if you get the approval, you're good.
Yeah, I think the only thing with Airbnb, it tends to be a little bit more expensive, I find.
Yeah.
So if we can send our clients get log into our members page where it has a whole housing section, and there we'll have a list of useful websites to go to find more affordable housing. But Airbnb, I mean, I did it the first, I think 5 weeks, 6 weeks I didn't register. It was a long time ago. And I noticed that it was a lot more expensive than when I looked at more local websites, but totally worth it if you want just to know you have a good place over, roof over your head, get started, you can register it. Awesome. Okay, Nicole, let's see. Okay, so no travel at all when you apply for your permit, not even for leisure within the EU.
So you want to go first? Well, the thing is, you don't, if you, as a citizen of the friendly nation, so for instance, American, you have 90 days where you can travel without a visa. So if your approval is in that, if you're waiting for the permit, within the first 90 days, it's no problem. You can leave Germany, re-enter Germany as much as you want.
Yeah.
After you've spent 90 days in the Schengen area is when it gets difficult. And legally, you can not re-enter before you've been officially approved. Now, will the agents catch it every time? No, I've heard of a handful of people that even after the 90 days got out and back in without issues. But just if they look at it, then you're screwed. Then you're not getting in. And so
yeah, if they look at it
You
at the
just have to-
airport. Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. Sorry.
No, you just have to know the legal
Yeah.
risk. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah. The thing is most, we are a borderless, you know, with Schengen zone, it's borderless.
True.
Do they check on trains, planes, automobiles? Not necessarily, but because of Corona and COVID, Corona or COVID, you know what I mean? The borders tend to be a little bit more strict. They're still borderless for most part, but they could check because they want to check to make sure that you have vaccination or negative test. So that would be the only thing I would say. You would be mindful of where you're going.
Yeah.
But I've seen people that leave and go, I went to Denmark or, you know, somewhere, and we're okay, you know, but I'm just a nervous Nelly. I just say, no, I'm going to stay here until I get my permit. Okay. So can I apply right away and still travel? Absolutely. So if you have a place that I think our quickest application time was less than 4 days, submitting from like arrival to getting it submitted.
Don't expect that, because
that's expedited charges.
That's pretty damn good.
It's crazy.
4 days is very unrealistic, but we've done it.
It's possible, but not recommended.
If all stars line up, it's doable, but all stars have to line up.
Yeah, and you can do it fairly quickly, Nicole. So if you have a place already that you can register, you already have the jobs lined up, or once you're here, you can get them lined up pretty quickly, then everything else can be done fairly quickly. A lot of authorities, depending on where you guys are going, what city, sometimes down to even the district within those cities are different, but a lot of them are still taking applications electronically. So what that means is we can submit everything fairly quickly, but they'll process electronically and then issue an appointment to come in and finalize. That would be the only thing I would say. Yeah. Berlin's super slow right now.
Typically fast right now.
Typically same day approval. I know when the whole Corona thing started, we were submitting applications because we have work with a business immigration center there, and we were getting approvals within less than 2 weeks, which for us is really quick electronically. When we send a client into Berlin, it's same day. So we're like, okay, if it's not same day, we get 2 weeks, that's good. Now they're taking a good month or two to give you the appointment. And then when you go in, because they've already processed everything, it's a matter of formality to do biometric photo, take your fingerprints, pay, and then you've got it. And then you're approved the same day. It just takes a little bit longer to get the appointment. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, if you guys have questions, you can put them in the chat box. So we appreciate it. Let's see. I have a few more and then we're almost wrapping up. Okay. So now we've asked about pre-move, arrival, permits, getting settled. What happens after I get my permit?
You first should celebrate, for sure.
Absolutely. We're celebrating every time we have a client that, we're like, woo, we do our dance. Celebrate, be proud of yourself, your new country. Most people, it's a new language. I mean, it's just a whole new experience. A lot of people, it's a new even profession.
Yeah.
Right. So it's an awesome new start, but celebrate. Once you have your permit, the big thing is making sure that you know what you can and cannot do for your permit. That's a huge thing. I think we get that question a lot that, for students, can I do freelance? And so just make sure that you know what you can do. Obviously, if you're working with us, we're going to go through everything with you very clearly. What I would say is first, so once you get your permit card, you need to review everything to make sure it's properly right. Everything's correct.
Correct. Yeah.
You're going to have an opportunity to do that with the agent at the office. You're going to have to look over everything and make sure before they send it off to get printed. But once you receive it, you still need to make sure, because you have about 30 days that you can make adjustments to it if there's any major changes. If height or eye color is off, not a big deal, right?
Yeah. it's mainly your job description, because that's going to be your work permit. And if it says on their language teacher, for instance, you can teach any language. If it says English language teacher on there, technically you can only teach English. So yeah, that will determine what you can and cannot do, and that the job title is very important. Most of the time you will get additional document with your permit called a Zusatzblatt.
I was even going to pronounce it. I was so proud.
What are you going to pronounce?
Zusatzblatt.
Okay.
But that, go ahead with that.
And that will have the details to your job description, what's allowed. Sometimes for freelancers, not so much, but for employees, there's sometimes an hourly restriction where they say only 20 hours of work at this place, at 20 hours a week, sorry, at this place. What other type of restrictions could there be?
Yeah, I mean, they put a lot of restrictions on there that are just pretty standard, but working for only one location, if your employment, stuff like that, it's pretty standard. But the key thing is just making sure that, because on your permit card, it doesn't say your title. It only has a law code that your residency is associated with. So that supplementary sheet of paper tells you exactly what your title is.
Yeah.
So that's both of them are equally important, but that kind of puts everything together. To make sure what you can do. So let's see, another thing to do, we talked about a little bit in the beginning, which we don't want to go into so much detail on this call, but if you are, say, a freelancer, then once you have your permit, depends on what they give you ahead of time while you wait, but most of the time you will then apply for your tax number as a freelancer after you have your permit. And once you have your card in hand,
you're good.
You're good to go.
As long as that's valid, you can travel in and out even after the 90 days, and you can get fully settled.
Yeah. Nicole, you had another question. Let's see. So I need to start looking for jobs as soon as I apply for my permit. No. So you need the jobs. In your case, you'll be doing freelancing, or even employment you need ahead of time. So any type of job that you want to do, you're going to need those jobs before applying for the permit. So to apply for your permit, you need your address registered, you need proper health insurance, and you need the job contracts. 3 things they'll tell you to go back home until you have those 3 things. Freelancers, what is that? Freelancers, you need a minimum. So if you're an English teacher, you need a minimum of 2 German-based language schools willing to work with you. And we typically will ask for a letter of intent, not necessarily binding. They do need to be filled out properly, but it has the intention of hiring you to work for that school once you have your permit. That's going to be really important. So for you, Nicole, I think you said August you're coming. You can start looking now, start prepping, making sure your CV is up to German standards. In Berlin is saturated with language schools. So put together a list, start sending your CV out. We are in summer break coming up. I'm not sure when Berlin is exactly, but it's around. So it might be a little bit slower, but get that ready. And then you can let them know that I will be in Berlin August, 15th, whatever it may be. But you will need those jobs before the application is submitted to the authorities. Okay. Do you guys have any other last minute questions? Please put them in the chat box. Otherwise, you can always email us at info@expatlauncher.com. The last question was just more or less about our services, what we do. So a lot of you on the call that are interested in signing up and you're coming in the next few months, you can sign up now. Like I said, most of the stuff is done when you're here, but we help with a lot of the pre-move. Oops, I just hit the camera. Sorry. we help with a lot of the pre-move, getting you organized, getting you prepared, and all of that can be done now.
You're welcome, Nicole.
So if you are looking to sign up with us, send us an email. We'll send you the registration and we can get started with everything. Awesome.
Yeah. And what we do is we have a in-house health insurance broker. That's me. And we also have a visa and residence permit service. So from the beginning, the pre-move preparation to getting fully settled, we'll walk you through it step by step. And
everything. I'm not kidding you. One-stop expat place.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hands-on support. We really try to be there and help you guys through everything. Yeah.
We'll have a lot of one-on-one calls where you can then ask all your questions, and we walk you through it.
Yeah. One last question. No worries. You got distracted. Are we boring you? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So rough order, you're saying proof of residence, health insurance, proof of employment, permit, tax ID. Perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself. No, wait, what?
No. So
proof of residence.
Proof of residence, very important first.
Yep. Health insurance.
Health insurance, care of employment, you can kind of do at the same time. Doesn't hurt to do the health insurance first, so you're safe.
Yeah.
Then you will get, so once you register your address, you will get the tax ID. The tax ID is, in Germany, there's 2 tax numbers. So I'll give you a little fun story. Back in the day, there was only the tax number called Steuernummer. The German financial authorities, in their infinite wisdom, have decided that it is too complicated, and they wanted to make it easier by changing the tax number system to the tax identification number system. The problem is they never got rid of the tax number system, which started out first. So now there's 2 tax identifiers, which you will need. So the tax ID you get automatically after you register your address, that you don't have to do anything, that will be sent to you.
Yeah.
The tax number, the second number, you have to apply for once you have your permit in hand. And then party.
Yeah. But you have it right. You have, it's more or less get your residency, healthcare proof, you can do the employment same time, permit, tax number, and then party.
Correct.
Most important, party. Okay, guys, then we won't keep you. We've gone over a little bit longer than we normally do, but thank you. Really great questions. We appreciate your time. I think I've said it probably 20 times this call, but feel free to email us if you have any questions. And then we're good, right?
Awesome. Contact us if you want to know anything else. And you're welcome. Bitteschön. All have a great day, evening, wherever you are. And thanks for your time.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.